Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast presented by Underdog. This is season 2, episode 11 of the Fantasy Walkabout. Crazy week that was. I just want to start off the show by addressing it's a sad day, right? News broke early this morning that Dwayne Haskins has passed away. Just wanted to recognize a phenomenal college player,
Mm.
uh, loved by his teammates. Just a sad way to start a Saturday. So just wanted to pay some respects to him here. But we are going to shift to a positive tone today. Lots to get through today. Lots to talk about today. That like last week we went through second round picks and how
Mm.
they seem to stick or miss, maybe a little more than what some people thought. And when I looked at the chart today, Tom Lee,
Yep.
um, I was a little more. I guess taken back by how many of those players missed.
Yes.
Uh, so I'm gonna really enjoy getting through that today. Next, I just want to mention we have a lot of stuff happening uh, right now. Obviously, with the acquisition of Andy Starr of What's the Spread, we are launching the Full Tilt Devi podcast in a couple of weeks, so that's big. Obviously, our conversation with Alfred Fernandez really helped boost interest for that, and the more we kept talking about it, the more we thought we should add it, and we have. So Devi content coming to the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, and shout out to Trophy Smack. Hey, Aussie Tom needs coffee. No. He's good. It's just it's still early over there. He's got a monster. It's early. We're good to go.
We'll be
Look,
right, Dave.
shout out to Trophy Smack today. Um, they after talking with Trophy Smack, they have given us kind of a goodie bag for giveaways on the April 28th draft show, and one of the items being given away, Tom Lee, absolutely insane. A customized Full Tilt Dynasty podcast championship belt will be given away April 28th on the live draft show. You want to know how you can win that one? Have the best comment of the night. You must be watching live and you must have the best comment of the night. And me and the boys, we're going to talk about this. And by the time we sign off, we will give away a customized Full Tilt Dynasty podcast championship belt courtesy of Trophy Smack. Of course, there are some other items, some t-shirts, some rings, just outstanding, and we're very thankful for Trophy Smack for that. And shout out to all of the guests. 2021 guests gonna be rolling through. We actually have our shoes on the ground correspondent going to be in Las Vegas. He will be calling in every time there's some big news, a huge pick, something crazy happens. That is Mark Shu will be coming in from Primetime Mocks. He will be there in Vegas. He will be calling in. We will be bringing him on for everything crazy. We'll get the vibe check. We will get how the crowds are reacting. So very cool. Shout out to Mark for that. Just the show, I can't talk enough about it, Tom Lee. I am so freaking excited for the April 28th show. It's just gonna be an absolute banger. Uh, Dave says I'm gonna make a milli comments. Hey, it's
Yep.
not. Hey, we want you to make a milli comments anyway, but it's not gonna be about the quantity. It's going to be about the quality of the comment. That's really gonna ring true. Tom Lee, I think that's it for what I wanted to kind of get at. Oh, the Saquon Barkley giveaway, everybody. I
Yeah,
don't know
gotta
how the
smash
hell
that.
I keep forgetting this, and I don't know why. But the Saquon Barkley signed jersey giveaway, we are also doing that on draft night. Uh, Go take a picture of you being subscribed and rating, even commenting on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, whether that's the YouTube page, on the Dynasty Vipers page, the Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. Do that. Send us a picture in the comments on something we posted, and we will get you entered. We had 2 or 3 last week. That's not enough. Keep sending them in and win that Barkley. Right now, we got a Saquon Barkley signed jersey, a Full Tilt Dynasty podcast championship belt, amongst other things being given away during the April 28th draft show. So don't miss it. You're not going to want to. You're going to feel real bad when you start seeing people bragging about the swag they got at the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast live draft show on April 28th. Presented by Trophy Smack. Okay, that's it. The advertisements for now are done. I got everything like that out of the way. The rest,
all the official business.
all the official business, out of the way. I, of course, am Thomas Tipple. You can find me at Thomas Tipple FF. And the Toronto Blue Jays yesterday, for the first time since 2011, have won their home opener.
It's massive. And I am Tom Lee. You can find me at Tom_Lee, spelled LIE 92 on Twitter. And I was really sort of reading through a few Aussie slangs today to try and pick the right one. Came across a few old favorites, and I'll give you one now. Struth. Tom, have you ever heard of Struth?
Struth? No.
Yeah.
I
so
have
Struth
not.
Struth is kind of like, are you for real? Like, are you kidding me? So if someone comes to you and say, mate, the car's on fire. Oh, Struth. And you have to go and bolt out and sort that shit out. So I thought we'd get away with one there. I love Struth. STREUTH is the way to go.
I love that. That's so good. Awesome, man. Look, the show today is going to be wild. Again, obviously, we did mention it at the top, but Dwayne Haskins no longer with us. Adam Schefter getting absolutely fucking roasted today, even by Lamar Jackson, as he deserves to be. That was a pretty fucking brutal thing that he did. And said today. We're not going to talk a lot about that, but that's kind of the news from today. What other news from today do you want to hit, Tom?
It all sort of pales into insignificance, hey?
It does.
You know, there's all the little rumors of, is this person going to be doing this? You know, Debo getting rid of all of his social media content. It just doesn't matter. And you'll say it at the end as well, but, you know, again, checking on family members, we're not here forever. So it's just a poignant moment to sort of stop down and say, regardless of your opinions on the player, 24 is way too young to lose a life. So,
yep. No, I agree with that completely. I just want to point out that you have down here that it is rankings season. We've seen some people post their rankings. Dave says, "Go Jays, go Canada!" Fucking right. Let me let me suss that real quick. That's funny. We've seen some pretty interesting rankings, and we're not the type of people where we're going to sit here and make a ton of comments about how people have things ranked. But can I just say that it is the first time ever that I have seen someone do a interview-based ranking.
Yep.
In my life, I finally got the right overlay here with your name on it, so people know who you are now.
That's right.
I've never seen it. That's got to be one of the funniest fucking things I have ever seen. His interviews were bad, so he's an F grade or whatever that was. I didn't pay too much. I even tweeted how did I miss that, Dave? Okay, Dave, you send that link to me, and I'm gonna read some of it right here live. I believe in your ability to rank wide receivers, and it might be the most. I think ranking receivers is probably one of the biggest waste of times. I mean, we had a huge argument yesterday in the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast Slack channel.
Yep.
Andy Starr, the first time he speaks up really in the Slack channel,
his presence felt.
It turns into a giant Tom versus Jacob debate on conversation and how to get trades done. And of course, I have my methods, and he's a robot. So we have disagreed. He has fallen to the wayside of the trade calculator, whereas I will fight that to the death. Um, if everyone used look, and I want to explain this, so if and or when Jacob listens to this, I can state. I just want to clarify this, okay? If everyone in the world used consensus market value, then trading based on market value would make sense.
Yeah,
But shout out to a guy in our league named Stolp. Market value doesn't fucking exist to him. So if you approached him in the terms of market value, you will never get anything done. Another listener of the show and member of the League of Record for the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, Andrew Jameson, who don't think I didn't catch you coming in here trying to talk shit the other day about the Leafs blowing a 4-goal lead. I caught that. You're a Red Wings fan, so you can silence yourself immediately and enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs from the outside again. But him as well. You can't approach Andrew and Stolp with market value because they have their own set values. The human element of fantasy football will always be important. It will always exist. And though knowing your league is important for when you can approach things like that, I just really think that uh, more often than not, for me anyway, market value conversations don't really get the job done. Tom Lee, a comment on that before we get into the real meat of the episode.
it's difficult, right? Because I mean, we talk a lot about what we think the market value might be and how to use that to gauge opportunities to trade for value.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it does come down to your own personal opinion. Like the chat went off yesterday, and it was based on a player. I mean, I'll mention him by name. So Cortland Sutton is what sort of kicked all this off, right?
Yeah,
So
Jacob said he had him like
it's a
wide
player
receiver
who, if you
32.
yeah, so if you have everything falling right, your opinion could easily be that he is a top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty, right?
Right.
Which is what I saw in a league. The other opinion is that if you watch last year, you may not care what quarterback he has. You may think he's just absolute dust, putting him into that wide receiver 3 with the other
Right.
millions of wide receiver 3 categories. So it's just interesting to see what is market value on a guy that has such a large range and distribution, multiple standard deviations away from what his market value would be. How do you go about dealing with an asset like that? And those sort of conversations are more fun than they are insightful and productive. But yeah, it's such an important part of Dynasty is having people with individual opinions that they stick by their rankings. They think this is going to be a difference maker for them, and the truth will come out by the end of it. So I love it. I appreciate it, and there's nothing worse than just sort of being chalk and rolling along with it. Don't be a sheep.
Right.
Call your shots.
Exactly.
So,
It's the only time I think I'll accept someone referring to somebody following the crowd as being a sheep. I know
sheep.
that's like a political thing, but
Yeah,
that's the
political and
only time
soft
I'm gonna let that slide. Normally I would tangent off on this.
he's an alpaca.
Yeah.
Don't be an alpaca.
Exactly. We're just like our boy here. Um so Dave DM'd me his dynasty wide receiver rankings. We're going to talk about that real quick. I
Sure.
just want to mention last thing about that conversation, and I think it's important. Um, the differences people have on values. Jacob mentioned that he had Cortland Sutton as like the wide receiver 30 to 36, I think, in Dynasty in that Slack channel, but at the same time said he would sell for 112 and be willing to give away 201. Are you giving away 112 for just a wide receiver 3? I don't think so. Like
We might find out today.
I think exactly. I think it's just the difference in and maybe you would without thinking about it. Like the way wide receiver 3 sounds, I think some wide receiver 3s are definitely how can I say this? Some wide receiver 3s are perceived higher than that more often than not. So I think it would
Well,
kind of
yeah,
blow you away how many you actually would.
because that's it, right? Like we joke that there's thousands of them, but there can only be 12 in your own rankings. So if he
Right.
legitimately sits 30 to 36, that still is an evaluation you can make. And at the 112, the players
And you're playing that guy every week
there.
still. I think it's
Yeah,
important to note
exactly.
you're playing that guy every
still,
week. So
it still is a value. The joke just being that is this the easiest place to throw someone who you don't really want to think about your ranking of and your evaluation. He's a wide receiver 3. Yeah.
The joke is that you're the reason I say that there's 672,421 wide receiver threes is because all the time someone tries to throw like Paris Campbell into trade and be like, he can be a wide receiver 3, bro. It's like, that's why that joke exists for me. Because if you look at it that way, there's 3,000 plus wide receiver 3s in any given week. All right. I'm going to list the top 24 dynasty receivers for Dave, and you tell me, Tom Lee,
Spicy.
which one is the most egregious. And keep in mind, Dave, we love you, and I trust you. That's why we're going to read this out right here.
Yeah.
Okay, tier 1, and I love that you went with tiers, Dave. Very important to go with tiers over linear number ranking. So great job with that. Dynasty wide receiver rankings as per Toronto Dave. OG fan of the show. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Dolce Brown. Tier 1. Tier 2, Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. Nothing egregious there. Tier 3, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Even post Miami trade, I think that now we're firing on all cylinders here, Dave.
I'm liking your stuff, Davey.
Number 4, there's one here I don't agree with, but at the same time, how can I fight so hard on this? 15, I mean, it's fine. We got DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, C.D. Alpha Lamb, T. Higgins, and Terry McLaurin. That's the first one I don't like. Then tier 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman Jr., Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Hollywood motherfucking Brown at 23, and Mike Evans. I like all of these except for McLaurin. I would have Godwin at 15. I would have Devontae Smith 15. And I would even be willing to move Amon-Ra St. Brown up at 15. But other than that, Dave, I think these are fucking spot on, mate. Well done.
Yeah, it's excellent, right? Terry, I agree. I mean, he's in a broad band of a tier there if you want to put him into it. Some of us don't even have him in that tier. He's later on. The one that always raises a flag for me, and we've talked about it a few times this offseason already, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So for me, Detroit is just such a how want to say it.
I'm sorry, man. They haven't added anyone.
I know. It's a volatile wide receiver market, quarterback market, position in that team. And as much as he produced, like I was saying before, I'm pretty happy to flip him for a 111, 112. Mm-hmm. For that same price or higher, I'd easily have Godwin and those sort of guys sliding above him. So that's the only reason I'd just say, like, it raises a flag. But if you're going to shoot your shot on young guys, go and do it. You know, this is where sort of the Brandon Ayuk's were sitting last year or the year before. Like, this is what you do. You push them up because this is your statement guy. And I have no problem with doing that. You know, if you think he is the guy for you, do it. That's what you want.
I want to briefly look at
I'll never trash that. Yeah.
I want to briefly look at his tier 6 because Juju's at 26, and that kind of makes me want to vomit. Elijah Moore, 28. I would flip those for sure. Amari Cooper being at 30, and even I'm the biggest Mike Will hater ever. But Mike Will made it is sitting at 39. Meanwhile, Amari Cooper is at 30. I would flip those. And then A-Rob 41, and there he has Cortland Sutton at 42. So when you really look at it, I mean, I guess maybe I was fighting the wrong fight yesterday. I think I'm just significantly higher. But Dave, we love you. Thanks for submitting those. That's dope. And if anyone else has rankings that they are brave enough to post, I want to send in the DMs, we will read them out because I really did enjoy that. That was a great time. We're going to take a quick second. We're going to take a break. Shout out to Toronto Dave in the chat. OG fan of the show. Couldn't be here without him. We're going to play a clip from last week on Tuesday when we were talking rookies. And then when we come back, we are definitely going to get into the meat of the program. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised on who hit and who missed this week. Very, very insane.
There's rumors of him being the likely pick at 6 to the Panthers, which would be fucking hilarious. Every single Sunday, listening to Tom bitch and moan about Kenny Pickett missing DJ Moore. That would be the funniest thing I've ever heard about in my life.
Needs another shitbag quarterback to miss him.
Anyway.
Look, I just want to address a rumor that was flying around after last week's show. I did not physically fight Billy at the end of that show.
Didn't
He's
that
in
get the crowd
Texas
riled up?
and I
Yeah.
am in Canada. Look, I didn't necessarily mean everything that I said, but I could see that I was getting a reaction out of Billy. And like a comedian, I was thought,
Sometimes it's just fun. Yeah.
there's a bigger laugh here, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I do think that if I got a shot to readjust my rankings, Kenny Pickett would slide all the motherfucking way down. His baby hands and him being 57 years old out of college is two things going against him. But in Carolina, I don't care. I will love you in Carolina so long as you hyper target DJ Moore. I am first quarterback that can get DJ Moore more than 4 touchdowns in a season. I will put at my dynasty quarterback 101. So if that's Kenny Pickett, if he can get DJ Moore more than 4 touchdowns,
Someone get Mahomes.
You get him to 5.
To Carolina.
Yep. So you get him to 5 touchdowns. You get him to 6 touchdowns. You will immediately at that time be my dynasty quarterback 101, and I will post it because that man deserves it. Tom Lee, why don't you walk us through and walk the people through what we're doing here right now?
So we're punishing a Torley, and if you haven't caught on by now, this is more where we sort of just have a general chat about the landscape of some stuff. We don't dive in too deep to it, but we have a little look back. And today we're going to look sort of at the next phase. Last week we looked at 203 to 212. What is the value of a pick throughout history? Today we move up slightly to what should be the more interesting, the more spicy guys with 106, or in this case 107 through to 202. Through the last 5 years, and like you said before, it's not all as rosy as I thought it would be. She's a bit of an interesting looking field. So we'll dive in year by year, going 107 down through 202. And I've highlighted a few like I did last week that I'm pretty sure we're confident in being hits, and how we describe and evaluate what a hit is, we sort of negotiated last week. But this for me is, are they at any point in their first 2 years worth more than what they were picked at? So for me, that's my evaluation, what I've highlighted here. So as we roll through them, keep that in mind. I'm not saying that these guys are amazing as of today, because it's 5 years down the track.
Right. It's important to note that 2020 is a little clearer, but 2021, obviously, it's not fair to say if they've hit or not.
Correct, yeah.
But I am fucking shocked at how these rounds of picks went. So let's go through. I'm just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, not only 19 players. You had 18. I count TJ Hawkinson as a hit. So
Cool.
19 players out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. So less than half. Less than half of these players from picks 107 to 202 we would count as a hit. And that is shocking to me, considering last week, I'm pretty sure that number was higher. I'm pretty sure we were over 50% last week. I'd have to go and double check on that, and I just might. Tom Lee, if you're able to pull up the show sheet from last week, you can count them up for me while I'm doing
I think
this.
the other thing about last week is that because the investment's lower, you're more excited about those hits. So even if it is slightly lower percentage-wise, you're not expecting it to be high. So realistically, it's already a win if it's anywhere near the same ratio. So, I mean, spreadsheet-wise, we had a few more picks last week, but it is around about 45 to 50% of them we consider to be hits from the 203 to 212 range.
There's
and what happens across the years, and we'll sort of see a little bit. We'll sort of see it a little bit as we go along here. Is over the years we've gotten better at Superflex drafting, so you'll see a little bit of a lot more hit. As in like the process of us has become more accurate. Not necessarily saying there's more hits more recently, but you'll see a lot more outliers 5 years ago where it just looks heinous and you'd never consider it as you would more recently, because we have recency bias. We understand a lot more about why we like these players. 5 years ago, it's hard to sort of go, why the hell were people in on this guy? Because it's not that fresh in the mind. And for some of us, we weren't even watching football back then. Not me, but maybe others in that crew.
Nah, it wasn't me this time, Billy. And Toronto Dave says, I consider 50% high. 50% is high, but when you look at 50% between picks 107 to 202, between over 50, under 50% for those picks, and then over or at 50% for picks 203 to 212, it really puts a perspective on hit rates and why those later picks and those mid round twos are so freaking important for you to accrue over time, because they can end up being just as valuable as these firsts, which is what I'm really learning from this process. So what's great about this is being able to learn through this process and really be able to see this. So let's go in 2017. This is a bad draft from this point. OJ Howard 107. That's rough. This is also Superflex ADP by Dynasty League Football. This is where we're getting this information from. So OJ Howard 107. 108 Deshaun Watson, pretty fucking good. 109 Alvin Kamara, pretty fucking good. 110 John Ross, 111 Samaje Perine, 112 David Njoku. I'm not ready to call him not a hit because he's had weeks where he's been very good. This is, I mean, year 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what, a year 6 breakout. We'll see what happens.
We're going to talk about tight ends, right? Because tight ends are they're an outlier.
Evan Ingram 201, and then Patrick Mahomes at 202 in 2017. What were we doing?
Like I said, this is where we have come a little bit further along the line.
Yes, I agree. 2018, we had Josh Rosen at 107. We saw how well that worked. Sorry to see his one throw last year. I think 2 throws in Atlanta last year. Both went for picks. Hilarious. 108 Ronald Jones. Hopefully he can have a good year this year in Kansas City, but overall I'm going to call him a bust. I think we call him a bust, even though he had a stretch when Lenny was out. He had a stretch when Lenny was out where he was popping. So I appreciate him for those games. So we're going to call him a no, sir. 109, fucking Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on. Easy smash. DJ Moore at 110, obviously smash. Royce Freeman, 111. That was he's got opportunity. Yeah, that didn't work out. Calvin Ridley, 112. Look, we're going to call him a hit because he had one elite season. I'm going to give this to Tom Lee, but I also want to dock him for, having an 8-game parlay. 201 Sam Darnold. I think 201 is actually fine for Sam Darnold. I'm willing to call Sam Darnold a miss on his career, but if you drafted him at 201 at the time, he gave you usable weeks that in Superflex, you were probably able to trade him for more than 201 at some point.
And I'm the same on Calvin Ridley, right? It's more of a value hit than it is a production hit. So
agreed.
Sort of take that win. Yeah.
Agreed. And 202 in 2018 was Kerryon Johnson. That's pretty rough. That Kerryon.
I mean, he had that little bit of a time.
No, he's failed.
Suns. I mean, if you were able to flip him then.
So did Jordan Howard. We're not going to sit here and call Jordan Howard a hit. So far over 2017, 2018, I mean, the real egregious one is obviously Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, Chris Godwin went at 212 in his rookie draft. So, I mean, anything can happen. So 2019, the 107 DK Metcalf smash. 108 TJ Hawkinson. I'm going to call him a smash because he was a top 5 tight end. And you're definitely not selling him for less than that kind of first at this point, especially tight end premium leagues. I'm going to call that a smash. AJ Brown at 109, smash. I don't believe you with this next one. I don't believe that Paris Campbell in 2019 was the average drafted player at 110. That is insane to me. Noah Fant, 111. Debo motherfucking running back Samuel, 112 in 2019. Then Mecole Hardman. And then Marquise Brown. We're calling that a smash at 202 because you're not trading him away for less than 110 right now. There's absolutely no way. And if you're not, then you need to go to fantasyintervention.com and read both of the articles I have up on Marquise Brown as I break down his stretches as wide receiver ones and why they are so bloody impressive. 2009, Dave said 2019 draft slap. Yeah, apparently, but Paris Campbell. Oh my God. Look, there's some egregious ones in every draft, and that one's just one of them. 2020. I think Cam Akers, we're going to call a value hit because there are points, and I have traded away a pick as early as 106 for him this offseason. Say what you will, but I called it that Cam Akers would be a top 5 running back in fantasy next year, and I still believe that. CeeDee Lamb at 108, Jerry Jeudy at 109. We'll see. This is the year. All right, Lucas, you're going to pop up in the chat now because I mentioned Jerry Jeudy and your spider sense is likely tingling. I know it. I can sense it. But so far, you have the question mark on Jerry Jeudy, and I'll accept that. 110, Justin Herbert was the easiest pick at 110 I can remember. Barry or B-Dubs, someone who has entered himself in the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway by taking a picture of him being subscribed and rating the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast on YouTube. I was just screaming at him to consistently draft Justin Herbert at 110. He can vouch. Jalen Reagor at 111. That one was heartbreaking and rough. And just like in the actual NFL, Justin Jefferson is the next receiver off the board. I knew it. Yeah. I fucking knew it. I knew he would show up. That was the draft right before I started playing Dynasty. The second I mentioned Jerry Jeudy, the cute hurts over there on Twitch fucking pops into the chat. I knew it. I knew it was coming every single time. Justin Jefferson at 112. Then the next two are just awful. 201 was Keyshawn Vaughn. We've seen how well that has worked out. The man can barely get on the field. And then Henry Ruggs, who was on his way to a kind of a breakout before doing something really stupid and killing someone because he decided to drink and drive and speed. Please call someone. Please. Just really stupid. Okay, and in 2021, this is where we were saying that 2021 is kind of not fair at this point, but we had 107 Zach Wilson. I mean, that's still a fine pick to me. We'll see what happens this year. He's definitely no Mike White or Joe the God Flacco. Travis Etienne was picked 108 in 2021, so kind of interesting to see what happens. Between Zach Wilson and Etienne, I think these guys have the highest flux potential in the rest of this class. I think they have the opportunities to shoot way up or just completely fall off the face of the earth as early as midway through their second year, which would be really sad. Then 109, Javonte Williams with the Melvin Gordon rumors in Baltimore. Obviously, the fans feel like he will be unlocked and unleashed and be able to reward all the people that were warriors and went to bat for Javonte Williams and fought for his top 5 dynasty running back ranking and current ADP, which is like early 2, which is kind of crazy to me. Insane. Love it. 110 Mac Jones, not quite as cool as Justin Herbert. He's kind of like the wet blanket version of Justin Herbert, if you want to look at it that way. But he's a fine super flex option. Young quarterback.
At 110, you're very happy with.
You're fine. You're fine having him there. Devonta Smith, 111. Obviously, you're taking that as a smash. Jalen Waddle, Barry's favorite pick at 112. Obviously, a smash there. Now, this is where it gets a little iffy. 201 Rashad Bateman. Not a hit yet. We'll see what happens this year, but obviously playing injured. He caught his first touchdown from Josh Johnson, so that's not something you really want to have happen. Hopefully he can earn that 20% target share next year. And then the next one, Trey Sermon. I warned you all on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast not to do this. I sat in this chair in a different spot. It didn't look like this, okay? Right? Patrick, the HR alpaca, wasn't here, but he was taking the emails that all of you guys were sending in, piss moaning and complaining that I was talking trash about Trey Sermon, and he handled all of them. Respect. But Trey Sermon at 202 was one of the easiest fades in rookie drafts last year. And I mean, Elijah Moore wasn't even on this list, right? Rondale Moore, they all got pushed down because of Trey freaking Sermon. Unbelievable. Yeah. Kind of interesting to look back from 2017 to 2021. Tom Lee, I want to, and I'm going to exclude Patrick Mahomes in this because that's just not fair. What is the biggest surprise to you on this list of players, and what is the most disappointing? 2 separate questions: biggest surprise and most disappointing from this list of players.
I think it's interesting because we'll complete the picture next week, right? We'll get the final 6. And we'll see what pushed what where. And we'd all expect, right, top 6 picks with the way we're evaluating them at the moment, we'd assume that they are, 75% hits. We're going to see. It's a wait and see. The surprise was, like you said, that it probably wasn't a little higher. But having said that, like I said, 2017, 2018, Superflex was like the new hotness. It was becoming what it is now.
Right.
So the
It was on its way.
evaluations of quarterbacks are really pushed around. And I was going to touch on it earlier, but these shows pair really, really well with what you guys are doing on the Tuesday show, because you get to see why all of our rankings for rookies are so different. And I copped a bit of flack from the Jacobs of the world about why the quarterbacks and running backs are pushed so high on my rankings. And the key being, if the draft cap hits, they're the guys I want to take the shots on, because they're the ones we're starting to put our eyes open going, how did they not go? Like, how do they slide down to here? So,
right.
The tight ends, and again, it's a reason I'm sort of fading
Yeah.
the tight ends. There's a heap in here that are fantastic players, but we're still question marks on them 5 years down the track. You know what I mean? And they're all still very acquirable, maybe except for TJ Hawkinson, because you're taking a bit more risk on that. But just for me, you're going to get shots in that second round, especially at wide receiver. And I think this is one of Jacob's biggest takeaways. If you're stocking up these seconds, the wide receivers are where you want to take your shots, because the upside for them is exponential. But then the locked in value, the value insulation tends to be with the more solid assets and the quarterbacks in particular. And that's where the biggest takeaway from here is, you look at that 110, 109, 108. If there's a quarterback still there and he was taken in the first round of the NFL draft, it's pretty much the shot you want to be taking, because, really on here, what we're seeing, one, in Josh Rosen, that was really a bust. But apart from that, the value insulation was still there for at least 2 years. And worst case scenario, you're cashing it out and reevaluating another year. So maybe not this year, but heading into next year, just keep that in mind, that quarterbacks are going to flood up the board and are going to push a lot of value down. So that's the big takeaway over these years. It's surprising that it's not as big a hit as we thought it might be. But, take your shots in the late first to second on wide receiver. Go with the value insulation on the quarterbacks in that mid to late first.
Yeah, I agree. And from what we've seen, that's obviously worked. It's worked out more often than not, especially with the quarterbacks, right? I think there's only one in this period that really hasn't hit. Two, I guess, with Rosen and Darnold. But I mean, overall, it's been.
But even then, like you said, Darnold, you can get out of that 2 years later. So
you at least got 4 weeks out of Sam Darnold last year, where you were really freaking happy. I know I was, because I didn't shut the fuck up about it on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. For me, the most surprising thing is actually how good receivers are. Right? Like, it's a little surprised. 2017 in this range, none. But 2018, you had DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley. Right, they were the only receivers taken in that time frame. 2019, obviously a huge draft: Metcalf, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, Hollywood Brown. Then 2020 was CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy up in the air, Justin Jefferson. Right, just more often than not, the receivers are hitting in this range. 2021, Waddle, Smith, and we're not sure on Bateman yet. But does this mean it's time to sell Mac Jones? I've always said that you should be selling Mac Jones right now, just because
depends
it's
what
Mac
you can
Jones.
get, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
But I guess at the same, I guess at the same point, you want a 23-1 if you're trading away Mac Jones. Chances are you're not going to get that. But trading Mac Jones right now for like 110, what's the point? So I think you're kind of stuck holding on to him right now. But they just got Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if? And again, this is a very sort of our friend Jacob-esque move. What if I was to say Matt Ryan in the 110? Replace that production with what everyone assumes is a busted.
I think I might do that.
Shot. All of a sudden, it's starting. So it's the hard bit. He's in that weird range, Mac Jones, where he's not a quarterback one, so you can't cash in and slide down too far. But there's a lot of busted old quarterbacks that not everyone wants to hold on to. That could replace your production, and if you can clip a little pick next to it, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I think that with at least Matt Ryan, you're right. You're probably replicating some production there. And 110, you can draft yourself a receiver, and hopefully at 110 land yourself a DJ Moore. That's the plan, like you would have in 2018. So that's a look at how things have been since 2017, which is going to go right into our next little bit. When we come back, we're going to talk a little underdog, and then we are going to get into the real fucking process here. And this week, man, if you thought last week was hard deciding which you would take between the pick or the player and who's drafted there and whatever, this week is going to test your might in your process. This is going to be wildin' for sure. So sit
Yep.
tight. We're gonna come back and we're gonna get really into it. So sit tight, all right, everyone. Yeah, I get the last word every
Yeah,
time.
he
because-
controls when the show ends.
Yeah, 100%. I could just cut it right now. That's the best part.
It's called fascism, Lucas.
It's not good. Don't love it.
It's called
Look,
being the
As
only
fascists
one that
invade
has
countries, sometimes they tell us Kenny Pickett's Brandon Whedon and act like we can't say anything to disagree.
Look, I mean, they're both going to be first round picks. And they're both going to be 45 coming out of college, but yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. I love this show. It's so much fun, even if it is the lowest form of analysis. Jacob. For the record, Jacob called that the lowest form of analysis because I started arguing with Billy over his game logs, Kenny Pickett's game logs, and that's only because I was getting the reaction out of Billy. That's the only reason. So absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I absolutely love our show. I love our program. I think it's great. But you know what else I love, Tom Lee?
What's that, man?
We're a football podcast, but I'm a baseball guy through and through. And luckily, if you also enjoy baseball or basketball or college sport, the March Madness tournament, even the Masters, hopefully you took advantage of what Underdog Fantasy gives you the opportunity to do. With Underdog Fantasy, you can sign on to the app, go onto the website, and add a little excitement to watching your sports games while they're happening. This morning, I woke up and I decided that I was going to play some Underdog Fantasy Pick'em, one of my favorite things to do when watching games, and I decided to place a bet. Dan Dunning was on the hill for the Texas Rangers, and his over-under on strikeouts was 3.5, and I went, well, the Jays are for sure striking out at least 4 times, and guess what? That one hit. And then I looked at Kevin Gausman, and I went, this is his first start on the mound for the Jays. No way he's throwing more than 82.5 pitches, so I bet the under, and guess what? That happened. All I needed, I placed a $20 bet on this game. It would have returned me $120. That's how easy it is. All I needed was Matt Chapman to get his first hit as a Toronto Blue Jay. And do you think he could pull that off? Fucking nope. Walked twice, struck out once, and I believe grounded out as well. But I will tell you that I was more invested in the game because I was looking for these things to hit, and Underdog Fantasy makes it so easy to do. You can also get access to the big board best ball drafts, the puppy drafts, all the stuff that Jacob talks nonstop about, and things that we are going to be hitting all the time. You'll also get access to exclusive Full Tilt Dynasty podcast private drafts. All you have to do, if you've never played before, is go to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with the promo code Full Tilt, and you will get deposit matched up to $100 freaking dollars. That's $100 free dollars on Underdog Fantasy. If you just go to Underdog Fantasy Sports and, sign up using promo code Full Tilt. It's that easy. Place some bets on games and get that little bit extra out of your sports viewing experience. Wheeze, also, just like it says right here. I don't know how many people understand this reference for Wheeze, but I love it. It was one of my favorite shows while they were going. Look, Tom Lee, why don't we explain here what we're going to be doing in this next segment and why we're doing it?
I love that you've gotten out of saying hard yakka. This is
because you kept judging me for it.
Yeah, technically I'm an employee. It's like, well, I don't want to cop shit from him. So hard yakka is where we start doing some of the dynasty process work, right? We looked back, we took a little wander, we walked about for a little bit through the last few years of value ranges. Let's look at this class. Let's look at what we're doing with these picks. How does that information affect us and change our opinions of these picks? What we did last week, again, 203 to 212, we looked at what are some comparable players that are going next to these picks in startup drafts, and start looking at, well, these trades may not happen, but these are decisions people are going to be facing in startup drafts. What are we doing with them? Are we taking the pick with all the upside and the openness and all the range of outcomes, or are we going to take the vet that we know the value of? And last week, not particularly controversially, but the later seconds seem to be pretty good value, but the earlier seconds were a little bit tougher to evaluate.
Yeah, man. And one of the things that was most popular to talk about on Twitter, especially now, is, I took this player, or I traded this player away for this pick, and then watching the comments just explode. I can't believe you did that. Why would you do that? Blah, 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 blah. right? It's the most common thing that you see on Twitter, and I think it's hilarious to see every time. But if you're playing along at home, go to YouTube right now, Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast on YouTube, or you can go to the Dynasty Vipers YouTube network and leave a comment, play along with us, and tell us who you're taking. If you want to, you don't have to. In these situations. So Tom Lee, let's start at the 202.
202.
What do we have up first?
So right next to 202 in startup drafts has been going Mike Williams. What are we thinking?
God, that's
202
hard.
or Mike Williams?
For me,
you said it before, right?
In my
Yeah.
life, I have always said the answer is never Mike Williams. So,
well, we know your answer then.
Nah, man, it's really hard because the rookie that's by ADP being taken in this spot right now, according to Dynasty League Football, is Jahan Dotson. So, really, if that is where you would go, that's where I would go with my 202. I don't think he'll be there at 202. The reason we have all of this right now is because we understand the draft capital is going to change what players are at what spots. So that's why we're going 202 or Mike Williams, and then we're mentioning what rookie is also going in that spot for the pick. I think the answer is Mike Williams, according to the Cute Hurts over there on Twitch, which you should be going and subbing to. His Warzone content is fantastic. I think this year I'll also go with Mike Williams over the 202.
Yeah, and
but
I'm
it's
the
tough.
same.
It's hard.
Yeah, we talked about this, like I said, towards the end of the last show, the 204, the 203. One of the biggest issues with taking these early seconds, and that's why you guys preach so much, take the later seconds, is you don't really know based on what draft cap is going to happen. What's going to happen in these picks? Who's going to slide above them? Who's going to slide down? You are taking a little bit more of a risk because you've got to invest more capital to get these picks, whereas the later seconds are far cheaper acquisitions, and you know most of these guys should be gone. Yes, one could slide and you could strike it. But realistically, you know who you're playing with. You've got a range, you take your guy, you shoot your shots. And if your process gets you a greater chance, which you and Jacob would back yourselves in saying it does, then you want those picks. And like I said, it's not a strong part of my process. I don't want to be taking those shots. I'm happy with the vets. If I can get that value, I'm happy with it. This range is more difficult because 202, you could get, with the depth at wide receiver here, we could get a really good player.
I just wanted to point out that since 2017, actually, you're more likely to not get a good player.
So this is where that affects it. Yeah. So, and the argument here is really with a guy like Mike Williams is, do you believe he's a good player? Because he's been incredibly frustrating for a long period of time. Then all of a sudden he flashed early last year. And I've got a fair few shares of Mike Williams because he was so cheap. I'm probably leaning that way just because of the fluctuating value
first round pick Mike Williams.
Until we see what sort of happens at the draft. If quarterbacks start going in the first round of the actual NFL draft, I'm happy to start sliding back towards these picks. But if not, it's a little dicey. Yeah,
I think that's going to be huge, and I think that this is going to be one of those really weird years that no matter what happens with how many quarterbacks get drafted in the first round, I think the quarterbacks are going to fall in rookie drafts. I just think that this class has been so dogged on for quarterbacks, and honestly, rightfully so. That 202, I think, is going to join in 2022. I'll say this you can clip this, Lucas. In 2022, the 202 spot in rookie drafts will fail again, like it has since 2017. Because I guarantee a quarterback is going to be selected there, and I'm not placing my money on them hitting at 202. I think Dotson will get pushed up in drafts.
There's a few names coming up as well that I think we can easily draw a line saying that they may be the bust that you get at the 202
exactly,
spot.
but some of them are like the just for Superflex values. They shouldn't necessarily fall. So on 202 or Mike Williams, I'm going Mike Williams. The chat is going Mike Williams. What's next?
So next up, 201 or the new possibly deep threat for Mitch Trubisky, Chase Claypool. So 201, Chase Claypool. We've got the 2022 evaluation at the moment saying Rashad White. Replace whatever you think is going to be there at 201 and use that as your general evaluation. But 201 or Chase Claypool?
Oh man, since 2017, outside of maybe Rashad Bateman, the 201 just has not hit, as we talked about in the previous segment. With 201 being Evan Ingram, Sam Darnold, Nicole Hardman, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Rashad Bateman since 2017. Really eye-opening. But when it comes to a player like Chase Claypool and his situation, he's kind of mirroring what Mike Williams did early in his career. He
Yeah.
had the 10 plus touchdown seasons,
Yeah.
and then last year just one touchdown. It was horrendously disappointing. I think I'm taking the 201 in this case because I do think a quarterback will fall, and I understand that I just mentioned that there have been like no hits since 2017, but
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that 201 at least accrues more value than that. And you have here the 2022 rookie being taken in that spot is Rashad White. If that happens, I will happily take Rashad White over Chase Claypool if he gets the draft capital that warrants him being at 201. And maybe he's Keyshawn Vaughn. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I like him as a player. So I'm willing to go with the 201 there.
Yeah, I'll still lean the vet. I'd go Chase Claypool just because of what you said. There's still a little bit of uncertainty. I like watching Chase Claypool, and that's just a personal take on it. He sits in those wide receiver threes.
Canada, baby.
Yeah, and like he has the highlights like a Mike Williams. He goes into does the big things, but he actually doesn't have the floor yet, which is kind of the concern. So for me, I just want to see what it becomes. 201, I'm going to take a risk on whoever falls. It could be amazing, but I kind of just want to watch what I know at the moment. Worst case scenario, like I said last week, someone amazing falls to 201. If they don't absolutely shoot the lights out to start with and I see what I like, I'll go and get that player for a similar price. I'm okay with it. So at the moment, I'd lean the vet, but I don't blame you. I mean, 201, again, should be a very, very good wide receiver or possibly a running back that slides. So we'll see what happens.
And there's always the caveat that I think you'll be able to trade 201 for Chase Claypool plus at draft time, but that's not what we're talking about. That's kind of a cop-out. That's me protecting what I said so I can have a backup later. What's next?
Value insulation. Yeah.
Chat says Claypool. Chat says Claypool, but it's incredibly close.
Yeah. So part of this is also where you have these wide receiver ranks. We said before wide receiver rankings are kind of pointless or kind of frustrating. It really depends if you have any of these guys above one another. You could easily have Mike Williams above a Chase Claypool and be like, what the hell are they talking about? Of course you take this player. That's absolutely fine. Go with that opinion.
Some people still think that Mike Williams is like a 108 or bust in trade talk. So you never know.
Call your shot. Yeah, so 112 or Darnell Mooney. And the reason I say that is because, again, people either love Darnell Mooney or just saying, well, he could be anything, he could be nothing. I don't really want to bargain. So where are you at, firstly, with Darnell Mooney? Tell us what sort of ranking you have.
See you later.
And then, yeah.
I'm taking the pick. It's so, for me, this is hilarious that the 112 is going right now in startups at the same spot that 112 is going. Chad agrees at 112 so far, but it's so hilariously the 112. And the rookie right there is Sam Howell. Again, like we've been saying, the quarterback class is getting shit on, and maybe rightfully so, but I'm willing to bet that Sam Howell has more years of fantasy relevance in him than Darnell Mooney does. I think Darnell Mooney is one of the most overrated players in fantasy. I have seen takes ranging from he will be a top 10 receiver next year to he will be a weekly top 17 player. No, I don't think so. One, I kind of think Justin Fields is like a little bit bad. And two, I think that not only will they add a receiver in the draft, even though it won't be a first, the depth is fine enough. If he even gets his 168 or whatever it was targets like he did last year, he didn't produce with those targets. And Andy Dalton was part of the reason that he had as much success even as he did. So I don't know if he's going to get targeted 15 times a game or in just a handful. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that Darnell Mooney is not tradable for the 112 right now, straight up, if you were to ask for it. And I'm also willing to bet that if it is Sam Howell or one of these quarterbacks, I'm going to be happy to take the risk at 112. And given the fact that 112 has been the most consistent producer in rookie drafts dating back to 2017 so far between the two shows that we've done, 112 being David Njoku, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, and Jalen frickin' Waddle, I'm going to take history here, and I'm going to bet on the 112.
Yeah, I'm also in that boat, 112. And again, it is more my evaluation for Darnell Mooney. I like that he has a shot to be the wide receiver one there. I think they're going to draft a wide receiver as well. So for me, I'd rather go with the excitement of the rookie over what I've seen so far. But there are plenty out there who evaluate Darnell at that market and would still buy at that price. So do your due diligence in your leagues. But for me, it's the 112.
And again, you can clip this too. We had Steven Johnson on the show, I think 6 or 7 weeks ago, and he was stating how desperate the Bears were for receiving help because there's just nobody there. And I think that shows a lot. And if Mooney is that guy, is he going to be able to be a difference maker while being the focus on the defense? I don't think so. And again, we've got a new offensive coordinator, a new system, a new head coach. An offensive line that's still not great in Chicago, and no first-round pick. Justin Fields is a scary enough fantasy asset. I think Darnell Mooney is one of the scariest receiver assets in football. And obviously, if you can get Sam Howell for him or 112, I mean, that's such an easy smash. I don't understand how the ADP has shaken out that way, but I think it's fucking egregious. What's next?
Yeah. So this is where we're talking busted production, right? This next guy, Ezekiel Elliott, is on his last leg, but in theory still could produce running back one numbers depending on who you talk to. So 111 or Ezekiel Elliott. Now, team situation may play a part here because obviously if you're going for the win now, you may not want to wait and take the risk that a wide receiver could take time to produce, but I kind of know which way I'd be leaning. What do you reckon?
I just want to point out that the cute Hurts has mentioned Mooney is not the next Deontay. I keep seeing that everywhere, and you're right. Everyone is going to, I think, comp the next small-sized, agile, route-running wide receiver that can be a PPR smash to Deontay Johnson if they haven't really produced. So, yeah, I agree. That's not really going to be the case. Okay, the next one you said was 111 and Ezekiel Elliott. Man,
Yeah.
111 has been shit in the past. But I think if you're trading the 111 for Ezekiel Elliott, you better be ready to have Zeke waste away on your roster and retire there. So, you know what?
Yeah.
No way. I'm taking the 111. There's no way I could trade 111 for Ezekiel Elliott in my mind. There's no way. There's absolutely no way that I would do that. So
that is the decision you're making, is you are assuming that he is going to die on your roster, and if you're okay with that to have a shot at the production, go for it. There are other running backs in that range that I would take shots on because I think they'll have a better chance of doing it, but that's entirely my opinion. I'm also with you. 111, if I'm in a draft, I'll take that. Unless for some reason by that point your build has gone a completely different direction and you want to take a shot.
Yeah, I think this is pretty easy. The chat's going with 111 as well. I would be disappointed to trade Zeke for just the 111. Yeah, I know,
right,
but I think you have to.
This is where we're at. Yeah.
I agree. It's weird to say, but all these Cliff running backs, right? So Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott should all kind of be valued the same at this point, in my opinion. And maybe I'll get chastised for that, but that's just how I feel. What's
Jesus,
next?
clip that, Lucas.
It's true, though. It's true.
Yeah, I know. I don't disagree with the process, but
they have the exact same probability of finishing with the exact same stat lines. They can all catch 50 plus passes. I wouldn't surprise me if all of them had 900 rushing yards because they missed 5 games, or they end up with like 1,100 yards each and they somehow had 12 touchdowns. Like all 4 of those guys have the same range of outcomes, and I would the 111 I think is fine.
And we've talked about this before. This is a difficult thing for people to get their heads around because 2 years ago you're paying 2 to 3 firsts and high firsts for Dalvin Cook, right? That's
running backs.
This is running back value. So keep your eyes open for more clips as we go along. 110 or Allen Robinson as we fly through these last few.
This is tough. I'm inclined to take Allen Robinson here, even though it's really hard for me to say that right now. But guys like Robert Woods in this offense was valued at 110 to 112 over the last
Yep.
couple of years. I know because I've traded 112 for guys like Robert Woods. Unfortunately, he tore his knee last year, the year that I traded 112 for him. 110 might be a little tough for Allen Robinson, but he got signed a 3-year contract. He's going to be there the 3 years, it looks like. 28 years old. He's got multiple wide receiver ones under his belt, and he goes into the Matt Stafford McVay-led offense where we saw even OBJ produce. Well, he was, I think Allen Robinson is healthy and 28 years old. Man, this offense has produced multiple wide receiver ones over and over and over again. Yep. I'm kind of inclined to take the 110. It
For
sucks
me-
this or sorry, I'm inclined to take Allen Robinson. I think I'm taking Robinson.
Don't clip that, Lucas.
I keep thinking about where Sky Moore will go. So far, I would take him over every player mentioned for sure. I agree, except for maybe Allen Robinson, because Allen Robinson getting into the Rams offense, I think changes everything. He's getting the best quarterback he's ever played with. It's going to be very interesting. 130 targets in the Rams offense for Allen Robinson. I think wide receiver 15 is like a baseline for him.
Yeah. So for me, the only reason this wouldn't be Allen Robinson is if you think he is athletically done. If you looked at last year and you've evaluated on film that you think he is no longer capable of being a wide receiver at the top level, then you would absolutely go the 110. Otherwise, 3 years, at least 2 years guaranteed in one of the best offenses in the NFL that have held 2 wide receiver ones before, I'm leaning Allen Robinson.
It's sad to look at him this long to have a competent QB. I know this season with Blake Bortles is like the best one he ever had, and so shout out to Blake the Snake. What's next?
So
we're going to try to pump through these pretty quick here.
We're going to pump through these, yeah. So starting to get more spicy because, again, we're now above the top 10 picks. So 109, and surprising to me, AJ Dillon is the one that's going near to this pick. What do you think about this, 109 or AJ Dillon?
I'm taking 109 here because like the Cute Hurts mentioned in the chat, I'm taking 109 because we don't know where Sky Moore's going. I'm more inclined to take a player like Sky Moore if he gets that round 1 DC than I am a player like AJ Dillon, who again is sharing the backfield with Aaron Jones this year in an offense that could not have Aaron Rodgers seemingly at any time given retirement and all this other bullshit that he goes through every year. I don't care about his contract extension. If Aaron Rodgers decides that he's gone, then AJ Dillon's now the lead running back on a team that's questionable. So I don't know. You put all that in there, how you want to take all that info, but I'm taking the 109. You have the rookie here that's being drafted as Kenny Pickett. But if Kenny Pickett again goes at 106 to a team like, say, the Panthers, you have insulated value on a quarterback that has my pigment, which means he's probably going to be in the league for 4 or 5 years because that's how the NFL works.
14 years because he'll be a backup somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying this every single time. I know the joke is that Aaron Jones is a slot receiver. I get it, but he still splits touches with AJ Dillon, and that's scary.
Yeah.
But I just think insulated value, if it is a player like Pickett, I would trade AJ Dillon. I would trade AJ Dillon for Kenny Pickett, just because if he gets that round 1 capital, right? He's And even if he gets round 1 capital, I think Kenny Pickett will still fall to like a 108 or 109 in this year's rookie draft. So. I'll take the 109 here because I think that you have more ways to go up. If AJ Dillon doesn't absolutely smash this year, I think his value's dead.
Yeah, I mean, this is tougher for me than Zeke is because of Dillon's age, but I would still lean the 109 just because, like you said, value insulation. For me, I think I can do more with it. And I can easily replace Dillon's production with a cheaper running back at the moment.
Replace it with Aaron Jones's, who's going later.
Because his age pushes his price up slightly, and you can get far older, far more productive guys later on.
Now, if AJ Dillon is like a smash RB1 this year, I'm going to be really sad. But at the same time,
that's the risk you take, right?
Jonathan Taylor had one of the best running back seasons we've seen in a very long time, and people are like, the narrative is already sell him because his value can't get higher. So even if let's talk about this. Even if AJ Dillon is Derrick Henry 2.0, right? The comparison's been made before. So let's just use that as a statement. And he goes out there and he absolutely crushes. He catches 25 passes. He rushes for 1,300 yards. He has 14 touchdowns and is like the RB, a season like that. Let's say he's the RB5. Okay. How fast are people going to tell you to sell AJ Dillon? How fast? It'll be immediately. However, if Kenny Pickett gets drafted at 6th overall or 10th overall or higher, you have a player who, like Zach Wilson, you're not going to get less than 110 for him, and you're going to get a couple years of breathing room with a quarterback. I'm still willing to take that quarterback who will still have multiple years of being able to recur value, as AJ Dillon could pop off and have exactly the season we think, and he's just an immediate sell. And he's also a running back, so it's looked at differently. Or that motherfucker could get hurt in week 4, and all of a sudden you have a tired asset on your team. So,
and remembering, we're not saying that this is a trade that would happen, right? This is startup ADP. So we're looking at, in this position, what are you more likely to lean with? I'm looking for the upside pick because I think I can get running backs later on in the draft. Not to say that if you have AJ Dillon on your current roster that you should sell him for 109, because we believe the value is there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. What's next? Oh, this one's so easy. I just looked.
Last 2, right? So this is what, I mean, we've covered this one before, and ironically, it's still happening in ADP. 108 or Elijah Mitchell.
108. It's the fastest same. 108. I love Elijah Mitchell. I'll be the first person to tell you that I love Elijah Mitchell.
I'll be the second person. This is good. Yeah.
I'll sell him for much more than 109 then. Yeah, you should be selling him for much more than 109. But we're talking about the draft value right now has it at even. So that's why. Look, 108 or Elijah Mitchell. Oh, I am praying that people are out there sending me a mid first or an early first for Elijah Mitchell, because yes, Elijah Mitchell has survived thus far in San Francisco when it comes to the free agent period. I don't think there's any chance that they don't draft a guy like James Cook, Rashad White, Zamir White, Isaiah Spiller, because that's just what San Francisco does. And even if they don't
want one guy,
we don't know if they'll give Trey Sermon another shot. We don't know how they're going to use if Jeff Wilson's going to be there. I'm not sure if he's under contract. Whoever's there, Kyle Juszczyk was being used as the third down back last year. And it's likely going to be a Trey Lance offense. How's that going to work? Is Deebo Samuel going to continue, well, if he's even on the roster, or is Deebo Samuel just going to get more running back touches in the red zone? I don't know. Yeah. I'm happy to have Elijah Mitchell if I got him for free on the waiver wire, or if I got him in the 3rd round of rookie drafts. Yeah, love it. Great. I'll hold him. But you send me 108 for him, and I will smash that accept trade immediately.
Yeah.
To me, that's very lopsided. 108, you have Chris Olave. You taking Chris Olave, or are you taking Elijah Mitchell? You're taking Olave, especially because he's going to get the draft capital. And even if those quarterbacks come down, right, if it's Matt Corral at 108 or Elijah, I'm still taking Corral, even if I think he kind of sucks, unless he gets onto another team that has super swaggy jerseys like he did at Ole Miss, because obviously that matters to me.
And to him, apparently. It's the same for me. So I mean, 108 is the pick against Elijah Mitchell, and it's the same sort of thing. The reason these keep popping up is because we know this year's draft is not flush with running back talent. So therefore, people go, well, I can't get a running back at 108, 109 like I did last year. Recency bias says, well, I need to go and get that position. We always say buying running backs in the offseason is not the best move because the situations are so fluctuating and so volatile. But it's the same thing here. It's just you're projecting and hoping that this guy will be a top 12 for some reason running back. Take the value insulation. If it still looks good after the draft, go and trade back for him, because I guarantee that quarterback or whoever you take there is going to have a higher value, and you're still going to be able to get your guy.
Yeah, and the chat is saying 108 too. I think that's pretty easy, and to me the next one's pretty easy too. What's the next one?
So 107 or Devonta Smith. So this is tougher, right? Because there's a wide receiver to wide receiver comparison. The guy coming off the board at the moment is Jamison Williams. We don't know where they've landed, obviously draft cap, all that sort of stuff. What is we'll have a quick take of what your opinion of Devonta Smith is and where he's at, because some people have him as
taking Devonta Smith. I'm taking Devonta Smith over JMO, because we know Devonta Smith is good. His target share was 24th for wide receivers. He had 22.1% target share. He had a 24.2% target rate. And he was number 9 in deep targets. So there's variance in there with him. He was 12th in air yards when it came to opportunity. This is according to Player Profiler, right? He had 64 receptions. He had 916 receiving yards. And he had over 10 points per game. He was closer to 11 points per game in fantasy. And I think that's fine on a team that had a guy like Jalen Hurts starting the first time. If you're telling me that next year we're getting Marquise Brown, like if the comparison is that Jalen Hurts is more like Lamar Jackson than not, then I'm willing to bet that Devonta Smith is more like Marquise Brown or not. And for as much shit as you want to give Marquise Brown, the man has had multiple stretches and back-to-back seasons of being a wide receiver 1 to a high-grade wide receiver 2. And I love JMO. I think that he's an exciting player, and it really sucks that he blew his knee out in the last game of the year. That sucks so fucking bad. And I think it'll be great if JMO. I have literally bet money on JMO being drafted by the Chargers, and I think that is going to absolutely boost his DC, but it maybe not that great of a spot for him for the first year or two. And I think that there would be a chance that JMO is able to be had at a cheaper price when people get tired of seeing him on IR or not producing or whatever the case may be. And I just think Devonta Smith is a really good wide receiver in the NFL. This one is really tough for me, but I think this is a matter of just trying to outsmart yourself and think about it more than you have to. I think Devonta Smith is an easy pick here. Easy.
Yeah. I think the only reason we're having this conversation is because the ADP for Devonta Smith is based on the aggregate of what everyone's taking, right? And the amount of people who have not liked him through the process because he was too skinny, or the amount of people who don't like the Eagles, or the amount of people who think Hurts won't be there, or they're going to take another one, whatever it is, right? It's the disbelief in Devonta Smith that's let him slide this far. If you're in on him, he is the pick here. There is no, like, it is, you've got your guy. He's 1 year older than the rest of these guys.
I think if you're not in on him, though, he's already off your roster.
Exactly.
If you're not in on him, you already moved him, right? That's how I feel.
In a lot of your drafts, you're probably not going to see this pop up because you're going to have savvy coaches who are taking the guy who we know the landing spot, we've seen the production, like we know what we're getting, rather than hoping for the landing spot right now. Now, don't get me wrong, Jamison Williams could easily go to Kansas City, and all of a sudden people just start blowing his value to the roof. But that's just a hypothetical situation, right? Right now, take your Devonta Smith, and you can go pick up the other guy later on. But for me, it's Devonta Smith as well.
And like that, okay, so JMO goes to Kansas City. Well, now you can trade, right, JMO for Devonta Smith plus then. And here's the thing that I don't understand about Jalen Hurts, right? So people think, people think, okay, well, if Jalen Hurts sucks, he's going to be their starter this year. I mean, let's face it. They have 2 draft picks. They probably draft a wide receiver. They're probably drafting an offensive lineman. Maybe they take a D end and a receiver. But either way, right? Either way, they're going to add somebody. And that'll be great for Devonta Smith. Because if you're worried about your team if you're worried about your fantasy assets team drafting another player at that position, then you weren't as hype on that player as maybe you would thought. And we see that a lot, and I believe that to be true. Second, if you think that Jalen Hurts is a quarterback of the future, well, then you have to assume that he's going to get better as a passer. And if that happens, then Devonta Smith's value goes up. And then they have multiple picks next year. So if you think that if Jalen Hurts isn't the answer and he's not going to start next year, well, then, okay, so Philly goes and gets Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, in which case Devonta Smith's value should go up if those rookie quarterbacks are any good. Either way, Devonta Smith's value should go up if you believe in that player. And that's why I think it's important to look at the situation as a whole and why I am so laughably able to take Devonta Smith in this very scenario. Regardless of what you think about Jalen Hurts or what the NFL thinks about Jalen Hurts, no matter what, even if he's not the guy, you got to assume they draft a quarterback. And if he does, I mean, you got to think he's going to target Devonta Smith a lot, right? Right. So for me there, that's oh man, that was
nice.
Kind of eye-opening. And as I say on this program all the time, it is so crucial to sit down, look yourself in the face, look your mate in the face, and have these conversations and put your process in check. It's okay to talk this stuff out. It's okay to have a differing opinion. It is more than okay to accept that maybe your opinion varies from where you actually thought it was. Back-to-back weeks, I've gone into this thinking that I'm absolutely going to smash one way or the other, and it turns out I'm a little bit more 50-50 than maybe I thought I was. It is important. It is crucial. And it's one of the only ways for yourself to grow. Tom Lee, final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'll give you an Aussie slang in a sec, but all I would say is that next week's show is the fun one because we're finally down to the last 6 or the top 6 from each year. There's some awesome names in this next group, right? And heading into the rookie draft in a couple of weeks' time, it's hype season. We want to talk about what's coming up. This is going to be a fun show because the arguments and the 2s and 4s of who you take will be right on the line. Based on a lot of these guys. So it's one not to miss. For me, the Aussie slang, little different one. Something that you'd say in disbelief. So let's just say you're talking to someone about rankings. Let's just say you're talking to Dynasty Jacobians about his rankings, and all of a sudden Josh Jacobs pops up as RB3, right? You would say in Australia, oh, turn it up, right? Fuck it, turn it up. There's no way. You're telling porcupines, turn it up.
I love that. That's so different from how we use the phrase "turn it up" here. Like turn it up here is like a fire it up. Like let's go, crank that. Like you agree.
Let's
turn
go.
It up means you want it out of here.
It's like you're taking the piss. Yeah, fuck off. Yeah,
exactly, man. I feel like I'm gonna when I go to Australia and we meet up for the first time, I feel like I'm both going to be well equipped and really fucking confused at the same time. Like, I feel like I'm going to understand some of it. And then at the same time, I'm also going to be saying the wrong things at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And look, for me, like I say, I generally keep things relatively the same. But I think today, like I opened the show with, I think it means a little bit more than maybe it has in the past. And next week, like you said, it's going to be the fun one. It's going to be a great show. And Tuesday we have another show lined up. And as I mentioned to kick it off, we have the Full Tilt Devi podcast. We'll be firing up with Andy Starr. That's at A Star with 2 R's FF on the Bird app. Go follow him. He's got the Devi insight that you need and that you covet. And like I mentioned, the giveaways, right? The Full Tilt Dynasty podcast custom championship belt supplied by Trophy Smack to be given away on the April 28th live draft show. For best comment, it'll be best comment from the NFL draft show will win that prize. You got the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway, which you can win by commenting or DMing a picture of you liking, subscribing, and reviewing one of those combinations, right? You don't have to do all 3, but it's appreciated. It helps us climb the charts and all that kind of stuff. But that's how you get it on that. And then we've got other Trophy Smack swag. And obviously we couldn't do what we're doing without everyone listening. And we're growing right now. And it's been,
it's an exciting time.
I'm truly thankful for everything that our fan base does. But like I said at the beginning of the show, somebody lost their life this morning, right? And I know, we lose people every day, but seeing the reactions of guys like Chase Claypool and videos of guys like Najee Harris, who were just with Dwayne Haskins and Hayward, right? That were just with, their teammate, yesterday and even this morning. If you go about what Chase Claypool said on his post online, you never know. You never know. So I say every week that it's important to check in on your loved ones and your friends. And that rings a little bit more true today. I'm someone who's lost friends and family, to, self-hurt and other mental things on top of accidents and things like that, as a lot of people are. It's important to check in on your friends and your family and your loved ones. You never know what anyone's going through, and you never know what can happen. So, as I say every show, be a kind person. Don't be a piece of shit. Check in on your loved ones all the time. Again, thank you to everyone that tunes into the show live and downloads and comments and posts and has really made our growth possible. We love and thank every single one of you. Remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and that your best days, well, they're always spent tilting. Good night, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe.